Hello, and welcome back to Criminal Justice Corner. Here at Criminal Justice Corner, we give you the real details surrounding the case, and just in case you find yourself in that same situation, we give you potential actionable advice so that you can potentially get yourself out of it. I am your host, Dr. Jennifer Matthews, and today I have with me attorney Michael Stockham. Michael, how are you today?
I'm fantastic, Jennifer. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you for being
Good.
my special guest today. Can you give us a little bit of backstory about yourself?
Yes, ma'am. So I was originally not going to be a lawyer. I trained to be a poet and a short story writer, and then decided I had to make a living and went to law school. I was a federal clerk for a year, and then I've been working at a large law firm for the last 20 plus years, mostly in complex civil litigation, sometimes bordering on white collar crime and government enforcement. I spend a lot of time advising boards of directors and others on complex crisis situations.
Wow, that's amazing. So I take it that because you became an attorney, it was kind of lucrative since you couldn't be as lucrative as you wanted to be being a poet.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time as a busboy and a mason's apprentice and other things. Wonderful jobs, nothing against them. I just wanted to develop my skills and earning potential a little more.
And that makes total sense. I totally get it. Now, I know the audience is probably wondering, Dr. Jennifer, Michael is a civil litigation attorney. He works with corporate. How can he contribute to Criminal Justice Corner? And I would say, I'm so glad you asked. Michael, you have a book, and that book has an inspiration to criminal aspects. Can you give us a little bit of backstory about how your book developed?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wrote a book called Confessions of an Accidental Lawyer. It's based or inspired by some true events. And one of the stories within that weaves its way through that novel is based on an appointment I received from a federal judge here in Dallas to represent a prisoner in solitary confinement that had secured a trial in the civil rights context against the state of Texas.
So this was a so you went to criminal court on this case.
This was not criminal court. This
Okay.
was an intersection between prisoners and civil rights and civil court.
Oh, okay.
He had sued under the Eighth Amendment for cruel and unusual punishment
Oh, okay.
because the prison was refusing to get him significant or important is the better word,
Okay.
heart medications that he required.
Now
His
that's
name was
I'm
Edwin
sorry.
Kimbrell,
Okay.
and I'll tell you all about him.
So that's really important, especially considering today's climate. Civil rights and civil liberties are often neglected and taken from people who, of course, they have the rights of these liberties. And when they're taken from people, of course, they're making noise about it. Of course, they're going to file lawsuits about it. So this is really huge considering today's climate. So what happened to your client in this book?
Yeah, so one thing you should take away from Edwin's story is determination.
Mm,
Edwin was a bank robber and had been sentenced to 55 years in Texas state prison.
okay.
While in prison, like all prisoners, he aged, his heart became weak, and he actually had two open heart surgeries
In
while a
prison.
prisoner.
Okay.
From those surgeries, there was then significant ongoing care that he needed
Okay.
through medications in
Yeah.
order to make his heart work.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it was things like nitroglycerin and others that would take away angina and heart pain and other things.
Okay.
He was having a hard time getting that. And so he created a campaign or set off on a campaign to ensure that the prison provided the medicines that he was due.
Now, was there like pushback from the prison for him to not get this medication, or was it just like not available? What was their reasoning behind not getting him his medication?
Well, it was partial. It was partially the system, right? It's just difficult sometimes within the prisons to get medicines and whatnot to prisoners in a regular manner, depending on where they are within the prison. Now, Edwin was in solitary confinement, And the prison he was in had 4 different levels of solitary confinement. So it went from the least dangerous solitary confinement to the most dangerous. So there is a significant amount of security and protocols and other things. And sometimes that can impede delivery of services or medicines or others, but it shouldn't end up being a pattern. It shouldn't end up being what was happening to Edwin when he would go for extended periods of time without his medicines or extended periods of time with heart pain and no way to alleviate it.
Now, am I to understand, because I'm in Illinois, am I to understand that there was not a hospital or medical facilities on site at this particular prison?
No, there was. There was an infirmary and a physician, and there was a director of nursing and a nursing corps that received medicines, put them in almost like it ran their own pharmacy essentially.
Exactly. That's what I'm wondering. Like, how did that part work? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so he would receive his medicines on a daily basis. Sometimes the supply just wouldn't come. And
Mm,
it's my own personal opinion that because he started complaining about it, that the director of nursing at that particular institution took affront to his complaints. And I think that may have exacerbated the decrease in medicine supply. So I'm of the opinion that there was some vindictiveness and human churlishness that resulted in this situation, but Edwin was having none of it and set off on a quest to correct it.
wow. So he knew his rights. He was not going to let the prison take his civil rights away from him just because he was behind bars. He knew that he was entitled to this medication to live. He needed it. So, beyond the fact of him being entitled to it, he needed it to live.
Correct, 100%. And
So,
so he first began within the prison,
okay.
running through the grievance system.
Okay.
Under civil rights law in the federal system, you first have to run through your administrative rights first
Okay.
before you get the right to sue in a federal court in a prison. So first he ran through the grievances, and those go to the wardens,
Okay.
and then the warden either accepts or denies, and you can appeal from the deputy warden to the head warden. And he did that a number of times. He
What?
filed dozens of grievances. They were all denied and affirmed denied by the wardens in prison.
So what you're saying is these wardens in the appeals, they were saying he shouldn't get the medication, or what were they
They
ruling?
were saying his complaints weren't valid. They
Okay.
were saying that he was getting his medicines on a regular basis, and Edwin was keeping a record of a chronology of when they did or didn't come. He was creating his own evidence within his cell as
Wow.
to the problem. And so he ultimately exhausted his administrative remedies
Okay.
and was allowed to file a lawsuit in federal court
Wow. So how did he gain access to this from prison? Like, how was he able to do that? I'm just curious.
by mail. So Edwin did everything with a pencil, an old typewriter, and postage stamps. And he fought an incredible battle to get finally to trial.
What?
He was allowed to rent a typewriter for
What?
a period of time,
Okay.
an hour or two or here or there, and he typed out his own court documents and then sent them to the federal court. And in the Fed court system, often each judge will have a clerk that deals with prisoner suits. There are a lot of prisoner suits.
Okay.
Prisoners have a lot of time to file lawsuits.
Yeah, but it don't
They
sound
have
like Edwin did because he was in solitary confinement and he was only given an hour or two per day or however long to do this
correct.
type of stuff. Okay.
So he trudged that along, sent it to the federal court, and the judge dismissed his case, saying there was no case. So Edwin turned around and appealed to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals,
And
reversed that decision. It went back to the judge. The judge dismissed it again on different grounds. Edwin appealed again, took it back to the Fifth Circuit. The Fifth Circuit reversed it, sent it back to the district court, and the district court allowed it to go forward into discovery, etc. And at that point, Edwin conducted his own discovery through the process, his own request for production, his own efforts, all from inside solitary confinement until he finally surpassed or made it past summary judgment,
what?
meaning that the judge thought a jury should hear his claims, and he was granted a trial. And at that point, the judge reached out and appointed lawyers for Edwin because it would be impossible for him to prepare for trial while locked up 23 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's how I met Edwin.
How long did that process take from from inception, from the beginning till an attorney was appointed? How long was that process? How many years?
Probably 2 to 3 years.
You started this story off right, determination. What?
100%. Edwin was very determined. He was very smart.
Oh my gosh.
And he was very funny. He was really a human person. That was one of the things we didn't expect when we met him the first time in prison.
What? I
Yeah.
don't even think smart is the proper word. I would say intelligent beyond measure. Like, I don't even know if I would have had that type of tenacity to continue going and going and going with all those denials from so many levels.
Well, he had a lot of fortitude and he had a lot of hope. He
Yeah.
had been in prison for, by the time we saw him, probably 2.5, 3 decades. He spent a lot of time in Huntsville, Texas, and then had been transferred to a different prison in northern Texas,
Okay.
and was generally in general population. And then for some reason, he was labeled a troublemaker and put in solitary confinement for
So there
years.
was no reason for that. Like there was no explanation for it.
They claimed he was an escape risk. He was probably 70 years old at the time we met him. He
What?
had a bad heart. I mean, yeah, it was an interesting justification to keep him in solitary.
At 70. Okay. So then how long were you and your firm representing him?
We were appointed in early August to do a full federal court trial in the first 2 weeks of October. So about 7 weeks to prepare and meet our client, understand, go through the records, go through the documents, and go try the case.
So how did that go? How did the trial and everything turn out?
Well, we started by first meeting Edwin. We drove up, a good friend of mine and partner I still practice with today, Dave Schulte. We drove up to meet Edwin at the facility, and we were a little bit nervous because we had been appointed to represent a violent offender, an
That's what
escape
you're
risk
thinking.
who had
Yeah.
been kept in solitary confinement. So we thought we were going to see a much different individual.
Right. Yeah.
And who came out and who we met was Edwin. Edwin looked a little bit like any average little old man you might see at the barber shop. Very smart, very funny, very engaging, always curious about his case, asked intelligent, probing questions, had a list of witnesses in the prison we needed to go talk to. He had already issued all the subpoenas for trial witnesses. Some of them were handwritten, and had secured that. So we met him, secured all his documents, went through the file, and then prepared for court and went back and forth to North Texas several times to get ready for the trial.
What? Then what happened? This is amazing.
Well, I'll tell you one of my favorite stories of it. We secured, because it was a civil trial and this was a prison town, this town had 2 or 3 prisons in it. So we were going to have a lot of jurors from the surrounding counties who had family members that worked in the prisons. And we figured there would be a high incident of folks that had a bad experience with prisoners. So
Yeah.
they were going to be jaundiced against Edwin right away. So we wanted to get him out of his prison fatigues and into regular clothing. So we won a
Absolutely.
motion to put him in a suit. Well, Edwin hadn't been in regular population for 25, 30 years, so there was no suit. So we had to figure out how to get him a suit in 48 hours.
So wait a minute. He was in solitary confinement for 25, 30 years?
No, he was in prison for
Oh,
25, 30
oh,
years.
okay,
He was in
okay. I was about to say,
solitary
wow.
for, I think by the time we got him, 3 to 5.
Are you serious? That's like cruel and unusual punishment
That is a long time to be in solitary confinement.
with no explanation.
He was a flight risk, they said.
Okay, go ahead.
Excuse me. So to get Edwin to get him a suit, we went to the prison. Because he was in solitary, there's no contact. There's no way to get him. You can only talk to him through the glass. So Dave and I tore up sheets of our legal pad into little tiny 1-inch strips, made them into a big giant coil. And we took about 10 of those and sent them in with the guard. and told Edwin to measure his, lay one along the length of his arm and tear it off and label it and put one around his neck and label it. And then we went down to the local J.C. Penney and walked into the suit section, and the guy asked what we needed, and we dumped these pieces of paper out and said, we need a suit that matches this. And so we went suit shopping one night for Edwin.
Wow. And so y'all had it when he came to court so he could change.
Yep. He changed back in the holding room and then came in a suit to be represented.
And I'm sure he probably looked like, as they say, new money.
He looked great. He was very excited.
Wow.
One of the things Edwin wanted was just to be treated like a human and to be heard. All he wanted out of the trial, win or lose, was to be able to tell his story to 12 regular folks and be heard for once. And so that was one of our big goals. Now, Dave and I, of course, were lawyers, we're competitive, we wanted to win. The odds are really stacked against you in a civil rights case with a prisoner, so it's an uphill battle. But one of the things we wanted to make sure was that Edwin was heard, that his story was understood, and that he got a chance to feel human empathy again.
So were you guys successful in that?
We were successful in one way. So in a civil rights case or in a civil trial, you can have less than 12 jurors. So we had a jury of 10, I believe.
Okay.
And 8 out of 10 found against Edwin and denied his claim. But he got 2 people that were there for him, and that was his ultimate victory, was that 2 people understood and believed him, and that to him meant an awful lot.
Okay. So was he able to get his medication finally, or?
Well, about 2 weeks after the trial, I got a call from the district attorney or the attorney general from the state's attorney, and she informed me that Edwin had died from a massive heart attack. He had been moved to a different facility, to a different prison, and once there, after being transported, had a massive coronary, and they were unable to revive him.
Wow, after all of that.
Yep. But he was very happy. He wrote us a letter, which is in the book, almost verbatim. He felt like he had been treated humanely and like a person again, that he had done everything he could, that the system had been fair, even though it was difficult, that the system had been fair to him and given him his shot.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yep.
So do you think that the heart attack had anything to do with him not getting his medication properly?
I am always skeptical of and will remain skeptical of the timing of Edwin having a massive coronary after dragging all these prison officials into court and having them cross-examined in front of their community members. So I don't have any proof. I don't have any reason to cast aspersions, but I don't really like the coincidence of everything. And I don't even think that the state's attorney liked the coincidence of everything as well. It was unsatisfying.
So where can the listeners find your book? Do you have a copy of the book? Can we see it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's called Confessions of an Accidental Lawyer, and it's available on Amazon. It's in Kindle format, it's in hardback, it's in paperback, and it's an audiobook as well. So the easiest place is to go type in Michael Stockham on Amazon and up come my novels.
So you have more than one?
I do. I have another one which is not based or inspired by any true events, which is actually the beginning of a series, a 9-book series. And that's Jake Fox, Ties That Blind is the first in that series.
Nice. Wow. That first book, wow. That alone, that story was, wow. Had you on the edge of your seat kind of type deal.
Edwin is, through that 8-week period, Edwin became a friend, a colleague. And there's not a day that goes by in my life that I don't think about Edwin.
Yeah, and his story, because that's some kind of way to end your life, like the last few months of your life. That's some kind of way.
Yep. He's incredibly inspirational, especially about determination.
Yes.
And incredibly inspirational about never giving up.
And
when you believe something, believe and fight for it fiercely.
And I was just gonna say, I always like to leave my listeners with takeaways, but I think that right there is a good takeaway. To never give up, to believe in yourself, because that's what he did. His whole story is a story of determination, a story of believing in yourself, and a story of not giving up. Because had he given up at any point, his goal would have never been met. He wanted to be treated human. He was able to do that. And he was able to have the people listen to him. And that's all he wanted. So he got his goals met.
100%. And he never complained about being in prison. He admitted he was a bank robber. He admitted that he used the gun in the robbery. He always said he deserved to be in prison, and he wasn't upset about that.
He just wanted to be treated like a human, which is his civil right.
100%. And that's going to be a big issue for an aging population in our prisons.
Yes.
Our prisons in the United States are quickly becoming nursing homes as prisoners age significantly and those large populations get older.
Yeah. Because I'm questioning him being a flight risk at 70 plus years old and being in solitary confinement for years.
Yeah, during the trial, they placed two deputies behind him, two armed deputies or corrections officers from the prison. And I asked the judge to have them moved because they were giving the impression that he was dangerous. And she asked them why he was why they were there, and they said it was because he was designated a flight risk. And I can't remember if it was me or the judge, but somebody in the courtroom pointed out that with his bad heart and the condition and his age, he probably wouldn't make it out the two doors out, just make it out of the courtroom if he tried to run away. And so they ultimately moved them to the other side of the court, to the back by the doors.
Which only makes sense because proximity of them, like you said, makes it seem like he's dangerous. And also, it lets the jury know that he's in custody.
Yep, 100%.
Common sense, people. Well, Michael, I want to thank you for being my special guest today. And thank you for sharing your book with us and the listeners. Like, my goodness, that is a story that's going to stay with me for a while. Just thinking about Edwin and his story, and wow, getting that book, I think I'm gonna have to buy it myself because that is really something, just what he went through. So thank you so much for that. And thank you
My
for sharing
pleasure.
your story. And I know my listeners are going to be like, where can we get that book? So tell us one more time where we can find your book.
You can find it by my name, Michael Stockham, at Amazon, and it's in Kindle format, hardback, paperback, and it is an audiobook as well. They're all available there.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I want to thank everybody for listening. If you have not already done so, please like, subscribe, and share. And we will see you on the next episode of Criminal Justice Corner. Thank you.